Right. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the HEAT training grant for HEAT Networks Q&A session. So I want to first thank you for being joining us this time. I have shared now on your screen the agenda for the session. So this time will be more focused on questions and answers around the guidance that is now live. But the points that we're going to be addressing today, first of all, is the welcome for the people from the Department of Midlands Net Zero Hub, then the eligibility criteria, the key dates and funding claims for the scheme, and also the next steps. So we're going to be using the chat for questions, and we'll try to cover them at the end live, or our team at the background will be also trying to answer the questions on the chat. All the questions are collected in a Q&A document that will be shared across with you in the coming days. And just to bear in mind that some of the answers might need to be reviewed by the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero before circulation. So before we crack on with the slides, I just want to go around the team just to make sure that make the proper introduction to the people who is around. So if people on the team can just help me with the introduction, that would be great. I will start with myself since I am presenting at the moment. So my name is George Santana. I'm the Low Carbon Energy Project Manager for the Midlands Net Zero Hub, and I'm joining this time with my colleagues from the Hub. So Alex, are you okay to give a brief introduction if you are around? Thank you.
You're on mute.
And I think you're muted.
Oh, do you know what? I've got through the whole day without doing that as well. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alex Pearson from the Midlands Net Zero Hub. I'm a colleague of George's there, working on the HEAT Networks training grant as well. So looking forward to picking up and hearing some of the questions that I'm sure you've all got for us today. Who shall I pass on to, George?
To Catherine, please, if you're okay.
Yep.
Catherine, who's supporting with the communications.
Hey everyone, I'm Catherine Appleby and I work at the Midlands Net Zero Hub doing comms and marketing support. I'm here as a kind of facilitator and hopefully making sure everything runs smoothly today.
Thanks, Catherine, and obviously thank you for setting this session for us. And also from the Midlands Net Zero Hub, Jason Tyler. Jason?
Everyone, Jason Tyler, Principal Building Decarbonisation Project Officer at the Midlands Net Zero Hub, covering the two aspects of the HEAT training grant as well.
Thank you, Jason. From the department, Phil Jones is joining us this afternoon. So, Phil.
Hi everyone, I'm Phil Jones. I've been in the HEAT network area for quite some time. I'm a specialist in HEAT networks, and I'm here today representing DESNZ. I'm going to be allowed to call them DESNZ without spelling it all out, because otherwise we can't have a proper conversation. But yeah, I'm here looking at technical aspects of the training grant.
Thank you very much, Phil. So thank you for being here supporting me today with this. And the first point that I would like to raise is that, yeah, the Midlands Net Zero Hub is basically one of the 5 net zero hubs across England. And basically, one thing that I want to make sure that is clear is that we're part of Nottingham City Council. That is the accountable body for the Midlands Net Zero Hub. So part of the communication for this scheme are going to be coming from mailbox from Nottingham City Council, and that's the reason. But yeah, so basically we're funded by the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, and one of the successful schemes that we are now going to be managing is this one, along with other successful competitions like HDSTC and the HEAT training grant for heat pumps, which already is being delivered. So I will go to the next slide just very quickly to run around eligibility. And for this competition, it will run differently to the other schemes. We have 5 training schemes, which you have already seen in the guidance. The first one is the HEAT network and feasibility design. We also have the HEAT network construction, operation and maintenance, same as the metering, billing and data collection. And another one that is very relevant for us as Hub is the local authorities and developers. So basically trying to cover different parts of the HEAT network scheme on different levels, and those will be the themes that will be supported by this competition. So it will be good to see the applications that are covering each or at least some of the themes for this competition. So regarding the key dates and timelines that are also in the guidance, so obviously you've seen that this competition has been live for applications since the 4th of July. So that's when the application opened so that the window was open for applications. So we have from that date until next week on the 8th of August for receiving applications. And then we will get into a process of delivery, which will go from September 19 until the end of the financial year. So by that date, we will make sure that we have the selection of awardees for this grant, and obviously the delivery of the first year. So this will be split into 2 different years, but for the first one, we're going to cover until spring 2024, sorry, it should be here. So that's when the training ends for the first year, and as it's stated on the text below, the program is intended to be a multi-year rolling scheme. It's funded for this financial year, and the expectation is for this to be available for the next financial year as well. But any additional funding will be communicated through the official channels, and in this case will be the Midlands Net Zero Hub who will make you aware of any potential application for the next year. So that's very positive as well, because you've been asked as well as training providers that we need to have a little bit more of a security of funding that is available for longer periods of time rather than a very short competition. So this is kind of like one of the responses from the department as well in order to make that available for training providers. So that's very positive. Okay, I want to cover a little bit of the scoring criteria. And again, the applications will be logged and acknowledged via email when these are sent. There will be 2 screening processes. One is for checking eligibility, and the other is for just checking the quality of the application. As you have seen, because now the application is live in the government website, it's separated into several sections. And I have highlighted the sections here, but just to bear in mind that some of the sections are not weight. And this is the case for the section A, which is the applicant details. That is definitely not going to be scored, but this is going to be something that we need to be through the first screen that is actually to be compliant, that everything is ready to be in the case of like contact details, that we have the contact details of the primary and secondary contact for the scheme. But the important bit is, I think, the one that has 70% of weight, which is the project details. Those are the ones who are basically to take into account and will be scored against the other applications. Same as section B, which is the deliverability and supporting evidence. There are some questions around what documents you need to support us to provide a supporting evidence. Some of these are demonstration of previous delivery on different competition or schemes, same as a proven record of delivering training for different certification. I know that HEAT networks is not something that is very defined at the moment. We're part of the scheme, and this is a point where I want to stop a little bit more, is that the position for the department is just to have a solid foundation for this scheme, just to have certification for future rounds on this scheme. So it's good to have that in mind for your application as well. And the other section that is important is the section D, that is sustainability and social value. And this is because also we need to demonstrate that any training provider who will be involved in this scheme has taken that into account in terms of like delivering with a social responsibility on their environment. It really depends on the area that you are, but at least they have a social value, depending on also the background on the application, and also the people who will be involved in the process as well. And as I said before, there are some other things that are not scored, but they are required to be in there, same as the breakdown of costs and funding. Obviously, it's not going to be something that is going to be scored, but it's important to have them in mind for funding allocation. Same as the section F, which is the record keeping, cost attendees, delivery consistency, and financial management and control. I'm just not going to stop a lot on the other two sections, which is additional information and declaration and signature. So in general, this is what I wanted to discuss before going to the how you are expected to submit your application. So as I said before, this is managed by a Midlands Net Zero Hub through Nottingham City. So the application needs to be sent to the mailbox that is in your screen at the moment, and we will acknowledge a receipt of that application between now and the 8th of August. The deadline is at 11 in the evening on that day, and no late submission will be accepted. So it's good to bear in mind that. Similarly, for the recovery of funds, I think it might be important just to highlight as well that the department on Midlands Net Zero Hub reserved the right to recover any funds allocated in circumstances where the agreed outcomes have not met. This is after the application and the assessment process. Once we make the, this is going to be led by the department, the decision of the awardees will be coming alongside a grant offer letter, and then there will be the allocation of your current funding, depending on whether you are successful or not. Another point where the department and the hub are also having that right is that there is an example that there might not be training delivered by a certain provider, and this is just to make sure that other training providers who are actually delivering very successful training are able to get that chance to continue demonstrating, and just to make sure that we have a track record of the delivery for those that are lagging behind, but we are going to be here around to support you in that delivery. And there is another point as well that is very important, that is the final report for allocation. So this is a little bit down the line, but once you are, let's say, at the end of the financial year and you're expected to complete a final report which will match against the funding allocation, it really depends on that specifics. We're still in talks with the department around that. But this final report is a very simple one. It's just a template that is going to be provided by us that includes a report and the lessons learned for the scheme for future improvements, and obviously to make this available as well for the next round, and also demonstration feedback forms completed and the compliance of trainees. So later on, for those that are successful in this scheme, we will make available a feedback form from the trainees, similar to other schemes, just to make sure that there is that survey made for trainees that they are being delivered the training, and also that we are listening to their requirements and their basically their lessons learned as well from their side. So I think that's pretty much what I have here. I have a couple of FAQs to start the session, if that's okay, and just as the usual FAQs. And I'm just covering these four, and then we're gonna go for the initial round. So one of these is does the report needs to be completed if there is a month with no delivery taking place? So we're going to be reporting, asking you to have regular reportings. There's still that question if it's going to be monthly or fortnightly. But yeah, we need you to provide every single time that the calendar sets that to have a report from you. This way we can actually have an executive summary that says if you have encountered any challenges in the delivery, and it will be helpful for you to have the report, even if you are not delivering any trainees during that period of time. Another question is, what evidence can we show to demonstrate that we can deliver the training, and what sort of evidence you consider appropriate? Well, I think I said before that previous engagement on other competitions and delivery for low carbon training will suffice for this requirement, but also a consistent track of looking into certification for year 2. As I said before, we're looking to have a substantial foundation for next year. We can ask for certification towards the submission of applications and basically training. The number 3 is, what is the final report date? So this is not defined. It's expected to be at the end of your delivery. Basically, when you get to the last batch, potentially 10% of the delivery of your allocation of spots, we will get in touch when you approach to this point, and we'll send you the report. That is, as I said before, it's a very simple documentation, just to have a record as well to what are the lessons learned and what are the improvements for future rounds of the competition as well. As you might be aware as well, we are trying to get some spread across England on this competition. So some questions are around how can I check which region a candidate lives in. So we're going to send a toolkit along with the list of awardees as well. But we're going to stick into the Office for National Statistics for this. We're going to share this link across. But basically for this competition, we're going to support it in 5 different regions, basically the 5 regions for the hubs. So it will be Northeast, Northwest, Midlands, Southeast, and Southwest. And we will be amending the template report so they fit into this regionality, so you can know, and basically depending on your training centers or where the certification takes place, and same as your trainees, you can easily fill the reporting template accordingly. And just my last point on this is that the recording of this webinar will be available in the Midlands Net Zero Hub website, and we will send you a link at this as well from this later on, so you can have a chance to review the questions that are being discussed in this session. So I think I'll leave it there, and I'll go back to the main room for picking up any questions that you have. So I'm just going to stop sharing that side, and yeah. Catherine, is it okay if I stop sharing, or?
Yeah, absolutely, that's fine.
That is right. I guess we have some Q&As already. And the chat is now live. So basically you're okay to start like raising your hand, and we will let you into the questions as well. And also if you want to give some comments around this. And I will open the conversation first with Phil. I don't know if you have any comments, initial comments or thoughts around this while we get some questions around. Anything that perhaps I probably missed a lot of points, but like anything that you want to comment on your side?
Alex has got his hand up, so Alex.
Yeah, just checking I'm not on mute again. I was just going to say as well, one of the questions that we quite often get is it only conventional training centres that can apply for this this funding scheme, George?
Sorry, Alex.
Sorry, I've thrown you with that one. Yeah, we often get asked if it's just colleges, training colleges that can apply for this funding, or you know, can people join forces, if you like, for instance, a manufacturer and a local training college to deliver?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, it's not only open for colleges. Also, some manufacturers in previous occasions have been delivering very well training, and as I said before, we're looking to move towards certification in the next year as well. So it's not a requirement that only colleges are delivering this scheme. And yeah, the only thing is that we are going to be looking to have that accreditation later on. So I think it's pretty open at this point, but we cannot basically we cannot secure that for the second year. So it will be good for those that are having those questions earlier on, that you get engaged since the beginning, so you can learn from the process and be better prepared for year 2 as well.
Yeah, thanks. One of the other things that we often get asked is about the nature of the courses as well, you know, in terms of you know, what sort of things are we looking for? I don't know, Phil, if you'd like to come in a little bit on that, if you would.
Yeah, that's yeah, I was going to add to that point. I think we're looking for anything that, in a very simplistic, high-level way, we're looking for anything that plugs real gaps in the skills piece across heat networks. And I want to emphasize that it could be welders or insulators, or it could be designers, or even people doing feasibility studies or financial modeling. It could be people actually building heat networks. But it could be even training of local authorities and developers to actually, if you pardon the expression, to become an intelligent client in the heat network space. A lot of people don't understand what a heat network is, or how you procure a heat network. What are the business models around heat networks? And there are many. So it's got a fairly wide, a broad approach to the levels and areas across heat networks where training courses could be provided. The guidance document does actually set out some themes, and I should emphasize, don't stick to these themes necessarily. They are examples of the sorts of things that I've just described, just to actually say that, you know, it might fit into one of these schemes, but it doesn't have to. It could even fit into more than one theme. And it could be a sort of tradesman type approach, but including some design, or perhaps, you know, so actually take those as just examples. But it's got to plug a definite gap in the heat network space. The other point I wanted to pick up from what George was saying, I'm very keen to see trade bodies, trade associations put forward training schemes. But manufacturers themselves, it's very important that, again, putting it in simplistic terms, one slide at the beginning saying who you are and that you're the best heat interface unit manufacturer in the wide world, but then the rest of the training program should be pretty much non-manufacturer dependent, or not pushing certain particular products in that way. So it should be non-commercial, if I can put it that way. So I hope that's been useful in setting out what we're looking for. But we're really open to a wide range of suggestions, ideas, proposals. If you're worried about your idea, before you actually put pen to paper, call the Midlands Net Zero Hub and have a chat, or run something by Alex and George and Jason and Catherine, and, you know, talk it through so that we can get some good applications in. I'm still looking at the chat and nobody's asked a question. So I think I've waffled for enough time to actually give you time to put something in the chat. So come on, put your hand up or put something in the chat.
Yeah, I think that we're looking to definitely have this too from you, Phil. You're very knowledgeable on the sector, and yeah, I second what you said about not to stick to the themes per se. It's just a guidance of what is expected to be delivered and developed. But I think sometimes we don't have a chance to get into the involvement of training competition or training sector very early on the stage, and this is the chance to actually get involved since the beginning, because there is always that question about around small training providers, that they have that disadvantage with big manufacturers, with big colleges. This is the time actually to get an application and then get involved with the market, get involved with these incentives. And I think it's a really good chance to get some applications as well. I'm just going to make a quick note here, just to let you aware that we have a couple of applications as well. So maybe the reason that we're not having questions is because people are already engaging very well and sending those across. So perhaps that might be the case. I don't know if Alex, do you want to have another note? And also, Jason, I don't know if you want to some comments from previous competitions. Basically, the table is free for you to chip in for any comment.
I think you've and Phil and Catherine pretty much covered it, really. You know, I expect probably people will think of a few questions, or it does look like there might be 3 in the box there. So training has been available for some time, but the demand is low. Will training be compulsory? I'm not sure if they're erroneous questions. It looks like the same ones being repeated. Catherine, can you see those as well?
Yeah, I think maybe there's been a bit of an issue where it's come through a couple of times.
There is one at the end. Can you clarify how training providers can demonstrate that they are capable of delivering training other than having won a competition previously? I think I can add a little bit of that and then bring the others in. You know, we'll be looking for evidence to be provided in the application in terms of, you know, a very clear scheme of work and session plans. You know, what you're going to deliver and how you're going to deliver that very clearly. Set out so that we can assess that as evidence of competence of delivery. Also, who you're actually having delivering it as well, and you know, their backgrounds and experience. You know, it's going to be useful. And then I suppose at the end of the process, how are you going to assess it? So as long as you've laid out those clear stages, what you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver it, who's going to deliver it, and how it's going to be assessed, I think you'll have pretty much covered what we need to see in terms of demonstrating capability. But open that one out to maybe Phil, if there's anything that you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think you summarised it very, very well there, Alex. So well done. We should have written down those 4 words that you just said. I think they were fantastic. But look, let me just describe from a heat network sector point of view. The heat network sector is relatively new to a lot of people, and there is, relatively speaking, very little training. And so that's why I was banging on about, look, we're open to ideas here, because it's not a market full of training courses where people are jostling to get in. We're really opening up and saying, what do you feel the training should be? What do you feel the areas are that we need to plug with training courses? And just to support what Alex was saying, I think, yeah, big trade associations, big manufacturers, yeah, but actually people who perhaps never even done a training course before, but know a lot about heat networks. But it's got to fall back on those 4 keywords, which have slipped out of my mind already, but actually certainly one of them was the structure of the course, what you will be delivering, who will be delivering it, and their experience in delivering some training, and the assessment around the other end of it. How are you going to assess whether somebody's passed or failed? So I think all of that is really good, strong indication in an application as to whether you're going to be able to deliver it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's another one, I don't know if you want to just stay on the line, as it were, there, Phil. There's another one just in the chat there about, is it going to be a requirement for consultants or engineers to undertake training? I mean, obviously that's a bit of the crystal ball work there as to whether that's going to come in the future or not. I think because we're starting from a very low base point, if you like, in terms of the training that's available, you know, we need to grow the sector first, I think, before anything is mandated in terms of training. We also want to, through this scheme, build up what good looks like in terms of a training course, and from that, then, you know, if there is anything requirement wise in the future, then it would be these courses that people would be required to have as a minimum, dependent on the area that they're actually delivering in. So so I think, you know, that's one for down the lines a little bit, a bit beyond what we're discussing today, certainly in terms of what I'm aware of anyway. But you know, small steps first. Let's get some of these courses going and build the market, and then see what follows on from there, really. I don't know if anyone on the call wants to add anything else into.
Yeah, I'll pick that one up. I can't see, my meeting chat doesn't seem to be working, so I can't see these questions, but you read it out very nicely, Alex. Thank you. So I'm currently supporting Des. Let me step back. Apologies, but I was involved in a code of practice for heat networks called CP1, which, if you're not aware of, you should get yourself aware of. And that came out from CIBSE in about in 2020. And a lot of people in the heat network sector have been working with that and to that set of minimum requirements. I'm currently supporting DESNZ on another program called HNTAS. We're full of acronyms. There's a whole department in DESNZ coming up with these wonderful acronyms. But the Heat Network Technical Assurance Scheme. We are about halfway through developing an assurance scheme to sit under the regulation of heat networks. Now, that assurance scheme will have minimum technical requirements in it, assessors, and certification of heat networks. So I'm not going to say any more about the detail of it, other than you can envisage that if somebody is a trained welder rather than a non-trained welder, then that welding might need less assessment because they're trained. And it could be that there are eventually developed competent person schemes that are even more robust, that allow even less assessment to get certificates. And the same is true of a designer. If they're, so we're talking about certifying at design and construct and in operation and maintenance. So all of that shouts, are you trained? If so, we will assess you and your work less. So it may become mandatory one day, as Alex said, crystal balling, but actually that you can see the direction of travel that we're heading in. But if we ain't got any training courses, then we've got to get something off the ground.
That's it. I think that's an important point to make about that sort of accreditation for prior learning as well, Phil, in that, we're not going to be, making people redo things. We can see what they're already doing and then, ensure that we've got a pool of people, accredited assessors, to then go and assess that work and deem competence or otherwise. We've got another question in as well. I'll kind of roll these into one. I think one of them might be for George there is, do we need information on every training provider? So I'm guessing that that's where someone's thinking about putting a joint venture sort of bid together, ones that we kind of spoke about earlier, in terms of maybe a manufacturer and an existing training provider. You would need to actually have a lead. So one of those two organisations would have to be the lead body for the bid, and I would say that we would then need information on, as I mentioned before, whoever's delivering the training and who's assessing the training as well, and how it's going to be delivered and where it's taking place. So the more information, the better, I think. But you would have a lead body on that if you're having more than one training provider. We would detail that. We have done those in the past with the schemes, haven't we, George? If you'd like to come in there.
Yeah, that's correct, Alex. And I think that's a really good approach. Usually we ask to have a primary contact, which in this case will be the lead contact, and then a secondary contact, which would be the other training provider. So we would encourage to have the alternative contact as well. It's always good to have a conversation with both of the parties involved. And also something that is important is that we also might need to have an appointable officer as well that is able to actually send us the monthly reports on the delivery each month or every fortnight, depending on what we decide later on. And it will be good to have that contact for that person, so we can actually go back to them if there is anything missing on their templates, if there is anything that we need to double check before going to payment on the delivery. So yeah, on that case, I think it's very good to have that primary and secondary contact in there. I'm going to move to the next question there. That says,
oh yes, the one from part of the problem in the training courses on offer have no business, as there's no requirement to take time off work and pay for training. What will change to make this training commercially viable? Well, I suppose, as we've sort of mentioned before, we're very much in the stage of sort of pump priming, if you like, and so this is part of a change, the scheme here, you know, where you'll be able to offer discounted training to people to take on these courses, and hopefully that will be enough of an incentive certainly in some of the areas, and we're hoping that the courses will be of high enough quality to make that worth people's while. Does anyone else want to just come in on that question? I feel I might have given it a bit of a lightweight answer, but just in case anyone wants to come in there. I think we're okay with that. Yep. Yeah, so this is part of the change, and a few things that are going to happen that hopefully, if we get everything right and we get really good quality courses, that will build a little bit of demand. And if there is some more stringent requirements for people who are working on the design and installation of heat networks, then this is kind of like a step towards that. So in terms of viability, you know, people will want to show competency through having a qualification going forward, but you know, that's something that may happen in the future, as Phil was saying.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And sorry, I was just looking at the last question, and I was trying to go back to the application.
Section 16.
Section 16. Yeah, so they are asking to explain section 16 on the application. So I think it might be worth if I can just share the application on that, and just let me know if I'm correct in section 16. So probably it's related to this point here that says, please provide your project timescale separately following the format shown and adding rows as needed. Note that the last training day is the 31st of March 2023. So yeah, this is to last until the end of this financial year, so 31st of March. And it's basically to give an example of a Gantt chart of the work that you will be delivering. Obviously, this is a Word table, so feel free to add more columns or rows as needed. So basically, we will be looking to have different tasks allocated to the different list of training that you will be delivering, perhaps, or different. I don't know if you have like the first task perhaps will be to have a little bit of advertising on the work. So you can perhaps set the advertisement as one of the first tasks, and obviously this will last from the beginning. Obviously, to make aware that this training is available for a couple of weeks or months, depending on what you think it might be suitable. Then perhaps the tech task number 2 will be the delivery of certain course, and that will be perhaps at the end of October as this one. So I think the idea behind this is that you color each of the tasks as a Gantt chart, just to deliver a potential month. So if you are looking to task 1 to cover 2 months, so basically you can just color it on the same color. And then, as I said before, perhaps you can just change it. This is marketing. And the second one will be training of heat network course, for instance. And it should be, as it says here, until the 31st of March. In this case, will be the 31st of March of 2024, the last work on task number. Well, it really depends on you, and that will be the end. So basically, we could have a spread of the works and an expectation for you to commit to that works, to those works as well. So I'm not sure if you're basically asking about this actual point, because there are 216 questions, but I don't know if anybody else on the presenters want to dive into this
Can
one.
I ask a question, George? Would a separate Excel version of this, it might be easier to do it in Excel, would that be acceptable?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just that it's set in a very tight manner on that cell. So yeah, we don't have a problem to accept a different document if that's easier for you to actually show better what are the extents of the works on the different tasks. So,
yeah, but we don't need 10,000 steps in a Microsoft project. You know, keep it simple, high level. But I usually do these sorts of things in Excel, but find it much easier in.
Yeah, definitely, Phil. So you just make sure to send it alongside your application so we don't miss like the chart or the Excel spreadsheet if it's in a separate document. So yeah, it is good to have that clarification. So I'm just going to stop sharing now and go back to the question that says, will there be a recognizable batch of the training that can be written to specification or contacts? I'm not quite sure on this one.
I don't. Yeah, I think this one may be speaking to issues around accreditation and certification. So at this stage, we're having, as Phil was alluding to earlier, we're having a very open process here. You know, we're looking for people to feed back to us. You know, what will satisfy the market need, and you know, we will judge whether that is meeting the requirements that we've got at this end. So although there's suggested themes, you know, it is flexible. So at this stage, you know, non-accredited courses are fine if they meet the requirements set out in the guidance. That badges, if you like, certificates and requirements that you could write into a specification or contract might be something that's coming down the line, you know, as Phil was discussing earlier, but it's not going to be an outcome from this particular scheme. That's my interpretation of it anyway. Phil, I feel I might need bailing out there. My conversational ship is sinking.
I think you set it out very well. I would just add that, so the idea at the moment is that this piece of this round through till early next year is for non-accredited courses. You can put in an accredited course, brackets, e.g. UCAS or something like that approved, but we're fairly open at the moment. But I believe there is thinking that the next round next year would be requiring accredited courses. And again, that is leading up and into the Heat Network Technical Assurance Scheme that I was talking about earlier, that the assurance scheme is going to need to lean on or refer to, if you like, accredited courses, accredited standards. And so that's where we're heading. But at this early stage, we're not asking for accreditation. But what we are doing is asking for what are your plans to move towards accreditation further down the line? So you can't ignore the fact that the direction of travel is towards accreditation, but not required now.
Yeah, that's I think you hit the point on this Q&A, Phil. Is we want to with this scheme, we want to see how training providers or what efforts training providers are doing to actually get into certification. So I think there's no better advice to give to them that is basically take that into account. And as I said before, it's really good chance to get involved in this early stage for this, and whatever the wait and actually set the path yourselves as training providers. So it's a really good opportunity. And I'll probably just, since we don't have any more questions, just leave it there with that final message, which I think is really, really important. Just a final note for me on the application form, don't forget to put the company name or the charity name. That's something that it will be really, really useful. And sometimes in previous occasions has made some challenges on training providers. So don't forget to put that's really crucial. I noticed that we have perhaps time for that.
Just one's just sneaked in there, George. Yeah. How formal and involved does the marked section of the course have to be? For example, would there need to be a written exam, or can a practical test be be sufficient to determine competency? Yeah, there's a wide variety of themes. Some are more practical than others. So I would say that the assessment has to relate to the job being assessed, if you like. So, you know, it has to be appropriate. So again, you know, it's this kind of thing. I know it sounds like we're throwing the book back to yourselves all the time as applicants, but you know, you give us the your outline, your course scheme of work, your session plans, and how it's going to be assessed. So if you're looking at something which is purely a practical skill, say fusion welding, then a practical test would be judged sufficient, you know, for that, I would say. If you're looking at something which is maybe, you know, away from the practical realm, so it might be something about engaging with local authority stakeholders and that sort of thing, then I would expect, you know, a written test to be more appropriate. But, you know, pitch your ideas in. You know, you may base it on things that you've done before or things that you're aware of, and you know, and in most cases you'll get a feel for what's appropriate. So if you're doing a practical course, then yes, practical test with someone competent to do that assessment. You know, assessing them, because it's no good if the person doing the assessing doesn't have the skills to be able to make that assessment a valid and practical one. So I think I would say with that, there's some basic rules to follow with, you know, how you would do an assessment, and you can probably find something out about that online. There's a particular assessor modules. In the old days, they used to be called A1 and A2, and anyone in the workplace can pass an A1 or A2 assessment module, and that was set up around the NVQ schemes when they first came in. So because the realization was there that there was a lot of academics delivering training, but there wasn't so many people with the practical skills. So if you could get the person with the practical skills qualified to be the assessor, then, you know, you could have a two-part course where you had a bit of classroom, a bit of practical, and you had someone who was qualified in assessment techniques. Really, it's not so much about the knowledge; it's about the techniques, and you know, and go that way. But make sure that you've put it in your plan so we can see and make a judgment on that. Phil, you're about to come in.
Yeah, no, Alex, sorry to interrupt. I think, just to emphasise, I'm all for practical courses, practical tests, but assessed by somebody who has the right qualifications. But the assessment still has to be in a very structured way that is providing the scheme with the evidence that yes, they passed. So it can't be just a nod and a wink from Fred the plumber to sort of say, yeah, I think that welding's about right, you know. And I mean, it's clearly got to be structured, and the assessment has to be written down in a structured way that the assessor has checked X, Y, Z, you know, etc. That sort of thing. And don't forget, we've got to take account of the fact that some people may fail. And do you have revisions? You know, can they go round the loop again on the exam or whatever? So all of those are considerations.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and that reminded me of one of the things that coming from that point of having the actual experience, like going being on site and actually doing the works, is part of the requirements for this competition as well. Is just to have, if you're awarded a grant, it's just to have some site visits as well to your training center. So that has been really useful, and it's a chance also to get involved with other people on the department as well. We have had some ministerial visits that we're looking to arrange as well. So that's something, a good opportunity to, again, build up this very much needed offer for training on heat networks. So I just wanted to make that note on my side. And since we don't have many more questions there, I want to finish with, I don't know if you have any final comments, Phil or Alec, that you want to add?
I think we've covered it all. I think just one thing just on the assessment, just to add, that just came to mind, that Phil triggered whilst he was adding colour to the bare bones that I'd put out before. There's the person who's doing the assessing, but there's also an internal system who checks the checker, if you like. So how's your internal verification structured? So you might want to drop a line or two on that as part of your explanation of how you're going to do the assessment, because consistency is very important in any assessment process. So we'll be looking to see that you've got that covered as well. So just a little bit to add in there. That was all. Thank you very much, George.
I just wanted to quickly go back to something you were saying, George, earlier, which is that this is a real opportunity to get some training up and running and to test it and to refine it, and then to move gradually towards fully accredited courses. It's a real opportunity to actually test bed, pilot, call it what you like, to get through to something that is going to help to underpin future technical assurance schemes. So put something in, and maybe you find halfway through you need to improve the assessment or improve a little bit of the training or whatever. But what you're doing is you're going up the learning curve and getting to a point where we've got some good solid courses moving into regulation.
Yeah, Phil, and I'm sure we will see in a couple of years that this is going to be a very solid market later on. So I'm really looking to see that, and I think it's going to that direction with the things that you said, that you're working for the accredited person schemes as well. So it's definitely moving that way. So I will finish with that final comment, that this is a great opportunity to engage since the beginning of the process for delivering training on heat networks. And if we're missing any questions, or you have any further questions between now and the end of the application window, please feel free to send it to the heatnetworks@nottinghamcity.gov.uk. Same as your application forms, with any extra documentation that you want to send across. And well, good luck with your applications. And for the panel, thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to see a very successful scheme as the previous one. So thanks all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.